Then Frieren begins with the death of its hero. That should make Himmel irrelevant. His great battle is over, the Demon King is gone, and the world has already turned his face into bronze. But somehow, the longer Himmel is absent, the more powerful he becomes. He saves a village without appearing. He changes a young warrior he never meets. He teaches an immortal elf how precious 10 years can be, only after those 10 years are gone. Himmel did not merely save the world from the Demon King. He saved the people who would have to live in that world after him. And that is why Himmel may be one of anime's greatest heroes. Not because he was the strongest, not because destiny chose him. The legendary sword literally rejected him. Himmel became a hero for a much harder reason. Every day in small and almost forgettable moments, he chose to act like one. So how does a dead character become the heart of an entire story? And why does Frieren make us miss a man we barely knew, the hero who already lost? Most fantasy stories begin when the hero accepts the quest. Frieren Beyond Journey's End begins when the party comes home. Himmel, Heiter, Eisen, and Frieren have completed a 10-year journey and defeated the Demon King. To Frieren, those 10 years feel almost insignificant. She has lived for more than 1,000 years. She leaves her companions with the casual promise that she will see them again. When she returns 50 years later, Himmel is an old man. They watch the era meteors one final time, and soon afterward he dies at his funeral. Frieren finally breaks. She cannot understand why she is crying for a human she knew for only 1/100th of her life. Then she says the words that create the entire story. She knew human lives were short, so why did she never try to know him better? That question is Himmel's first victory after death. He gives Frieren a new quest, not to collect a spell, defeat a monster, or reach a higher rank, but to understand people before time takes them away. Every step north, toward the place where souls are said to rest, begins with that regret. Frieren thinks she is traveling to speak with Himmel once more. In reality, she is slowly learning how to hear everything he told her the first time. And Heichi was never the chosen one. Himmel looks exactly like the hero from an old fairy tale. Blue hair, a shining blade, a beautiful face. And he would definitely remind you about the face. But beneath the image is a devastating truth. Himmel was not chosen by the legendary hero's sword. He tried to pull it from the stone and it did not move. In another anime, this would expose him as a fraud. For Himmel, it changes nothing. If the sword refuses to prove he is the hero, he will defeat the Demon King and prove it himself. This is the key to his character. Himmel's heroism never comes from permission. A prophecy does not make him brave. A magical object does not certify his goodness. Even the sword he carries is a replica. The symbols are false, but the person is real. That idea transforms every one of his heroic acts. Himmel does not help people because he is fulfilling a grand fate. He helps because someone is standing in front of him and needs help. The world calls him a hero only after he has repeated that choice enough times. Frieren quietly asks us the same question. If no sacred sword could confirm who you are, what would your actions reveal? Why Himmel never ignored a pointless quest? The hero's party spent 10 years traveling to the Demon King's castle. 10 years sounds long, until Frieren shows us what filled them. They took detours. They searched for lost objects. They cleaned statues. They helped people with problems too small to appear in any heroic legend. From a tactical point of view, that was inefficient, and every delay gave the Demon King more time. But Himmel understood something that many fantasy heroes forget. You cannot claim to be saving the world while ignoring the person directly in front of you. To Himmel, the world was not a map, a kingdom, or an abstract population. It was a collection of individual lives. Saving one frightened villager was not a distraction from saving the world. It was the smallest possible version of the same mission. Decades later, those choices are still protecting people. Villages remember how Himmel behaved. His stories become a moral language shared by people who never met him. When characters wonder what the right thing is, the answer often becomes simple. It is what Himmel the hero would have done. That legacy also exposes what immortality has cost Frieren. She used to dismiss brief human errands because they disappeared so quickly from her perspective. Himmel treated brief things as valuable precisely because they disappear. A sunset matters because it ends. A reunion matters because it may be the last. A 10-year journey matters because for a human, 10 years is an enormous piece of a life. The statues were never about his ego. One of Himmel's funniest traits is his vanity. He knows he is handsome. He can spend an absurd amount of time choosing a pose for a statue. At first, it feels like a perfect joke. The noble hero is also completely obsessed with his own face. But Frieren gradually gives the joke another meaning. Then Himmel knew that Frieren would outlive every human memory of their adventure. Kingdoms would change, witnesses would die, even stories would become distorted. So the statues were not only monuments to himself, they were landmarks left for her. Long after Himmel was gone, Frieren could enter an unfamiliar familiar town and see a familiar face. The statue would say, "We were here together. This happened. You were not alone." His vanity becomes an act of tenderness hidden inside a punchline. That is one of the most beautiful things about Himmel. He rarely forces Frieren to confront emotions she does not yet understand. Instead, he leaves doors open for the future version of her, a statue, a flower, a memory, a promise to watch the meteors again. The 11th he plants, meaning that may not bloom for another 50 years, because loving someone with a different sense of time requires extraordinary patience. The ring that arrived too early, nothing captures that patience better than the ring. When Frieren casually chooses a ring decorated with a mirrored lotus, she does not know its meaning. Himmel does. The design represents eternal love. He takes her hand, kneels, and places it on her finger with the gravity of a proposal. He never demands an answer. He does not explain the symbol and corner her into responding. He simply lets the moment exist. For Frieren, it is a small event whose meaning reaches her decades late. For Himmel, it may be the clearest confession he can offer to someone who is not ready to understand one. This is why their relationship hurts without becoming cruel. Himmel loves Frieren, but he does not treat love as a debt she must repay. 11th, he understands that her heart moves at a different speed. His tragedy is not that she rejected him. It is that, while he was alive, she did not yet possess the emotional language needed to recognize what he gave her. And Frieren's tragedy is even quieter. By the time she learns that language, the person she wants to speak to is gone. The anime does not need a dramatic confession. A ring slipping from her hand years later carries all the weight. Time did not erase Himmel's love, it finally translated it. His greatest power was seeing people. Himmel's real gift was not his swordsmanship, it was attention. He saw greatness in people before they could see it in themselves. He accepted the corrupt priest Heiter as a companion without pretending Heiter was perfect. It trusted Eisen's strength while respecting his fear, and he saw warmth in Frieren long before she recognized it as part of herself. Himmel did not love an imaginary version of Frieren who behaved like a human. He loved the elf standing beside him, sleepy, strange, obsessed with magic, and often unable to understand why a moment mattered. He paid attention to the tiny changes in her expression that other people could miss. That attention continues through the next generation. Heiter raises Fern, giving a war orphan the chance to become a mage. Eisen trains Stark, giving a terrified young man the foundation to become a warrior. Frieren travels with them both, slowly turning the old party's values into a new family. Himmel never meets Fern or Stark, yet both live inside the future he helped create. His kindness moves through Heiter, Eisen, and Frieren like a spell passed from one person to another. That may be the closest thing Frieren has to real immortality, not an elf's endless lifespan, not a statue that survives the weather, a choice that teaches another person how to choose. Why? His death saved Frieren. Before Himmel's funeral, Frieren is alive, but she is barely participating in time. A decade with friends and a century wandering alone can feel almost equal to her. She collects magic, revisits places, and assumes there will always be another opportunity. Himmel's death breaks that illusion for the first time, later fails her. Her new journey is full of small corrections to that mistake. She stops for Fern's birthday, she searches for the right gift, she wakes up early even if she complains about it, she helps villages where the reward is a ridiculous folk spell. She begins to notice the needs hidden behind ordinary words. These are not flashy transformations, that is the point. Himmel does not save Frieren by turning her into a different person, he saves her by teaching her to be present as herself. She still loves grimoires, she still sleeps too long, she still thinks in centuries, but now when a human life passes beside her, she reaches for it. The great irony of Frieren is that the hero's death creates life. Because Himmel dies, Frieren truly meets Fern. She accepts Stark, she reconnects with places she once rushed through. She learns that knowing someone is not measured by the number of years you stand beside them, but by the attention you give those years. The second time Himmel saved the world. Himmel's first victory is easy to name. He and his party defeated the Demon King. His second victory is happening throughout the entire anime. He saves the world again by leaving it a standard of goodness. Not a flawless saint, but a person people can remember when courage becomes difficult. His image survives in statues, but his character survives in decisions. Frieren choosing to stop, Fern choosing compassion, Stark acting despite fear, strangers helping one another because a hero once helped them. And maybe this is why Himmel feels more real than heroes who receive far more screen time. We do not meet him all at once. We meet him the way we remember someone we have lost, in fragments. A joke suddenly becomes wisdom. An ordinary gesture becomes precious. A memory returns because the present finally gives us the power to understand it. Every flashback changes two people at once. It reveals who Himmel was, and it reveals who Frieren is becoming. Himmel knew he could not stay beside her forever, so he filled their short journey with moments strong enough to wait for her. The hero's sword did not choose Himmel. History did. More importantly, people did. He was not a hero because he defeated one great evil at the end of the road. He was a hero because he refused to walk past small suffering along the way. And he understood that being remembered is not the same as being loved, that time is valuable because it runs out, and that kindness can reach people you will never live to meet. Himmel saved the world from the Demon King once. Then, through Frieren, he saved it from indifference. That is the secret at the center of Frieren. Beyond journey's end, the dead do not return, but the love they gave us can. It returns when we recognize an old lesson at the right moment. It returns when we repeat their kindness. It returns when we finally understand what they were trying to say. Frieren thought 10 years was nothing. Himmel made those 10 years last forever. With what was the moment that made you realize Himmel was a truly great hero? The hero's sword, the mirrored lotus ring, the statues, or something else? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoy character analyses that find the meaning hidden inside anime's quietest scenes, subscribe for the next one.